Welcome back everyone to Beat the Game. My name's Steve and today it's time for another hero pack, Understanding the Mechanics, featuring the lady, the daughter of Thanos herself, Gamora. Alright, so let's take a look at this incredibly fun character that has a very unique mechanic. Alright, so let's look at her alter ego side. So guys, again, if you like these videos, please share, like, subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And please, let's move on. Don't forget, May 31st, it's the last chance. If you want to get those OP promo cards, just go on the Facebook group and just comment a little something on that Facebook chat. There's like 800 comments, so if you want the 31st, I'm pulling the plug and we're going to get some winners, all right? And then I'm going to ship everything out on Monday. So check that out. All right, so guys, Gamora is an outlaw with 3 recovery. She is a hand size of 6 and 10 hit points. Okay, she does have on her alter ego side a skilled tactician, which is basically a set of instructions. You may include up to 6 attack and or thwart events in your deck from aspects other than your chosen aspect. So it's not 6 attack and 6 thwart. So it's a combination of both. I think some people were just not too sure about this. So you can either have 3 attacks, 3 thwarts, or 4 attacks, 2 thwarts. You can combine this however you want. We're not Sesame Street, so we're not going to teach how to divide 6. But yeah, so and it can all be from a different aspect. So you may. This is not mandatory, which is super cool because it gives you a lot of power to create your power. All right, so there you go. So Gamora also has an action, and this action is pretty nice. It says, look at the top card of your deck, and if that card is an attack or thwart event, draw it once per round. So obviously it's once per round because it's very powerful, and you are incentivized to put more events in your deck rather than put more permanents. So that's very cool. So to be able to get that extra hand size of 7 if you find yourself finding a thwart or attack event on your top deck, which is good. Now let's check the Lady Gamora in her hero form. So she's got well-rounded stats. So she's a 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense character, and she is a guardian. And then she has two special responses. The first one is finesse, which is kind of cool because Spider-Woman has the finesse card and now it's coming back. So finesse is response after you play an attack event, remove a threat from a scheme once per phase. Now what is the phase? The hero phase, the villain phase, and that is completely around. And then precision, response after you play a thwart event, deal 1 damage to an enemy, limits once per phase again. So this is very cool because it's such synergy that if you play thwart, you deal damage. If you deal damage, you remove threat, and then you also have her basic stats abilities. Now, what's super fun about this character is we're gonna explore this a little bit. Is that you can basically do whatever you want. You know, if you want to thin out her deck and just try to find her special kit cards, it's great. It's not going to be as powerful in the beginning, but once you thin out your deck, and then you go in and then you just find your attack events and thwart events, and you're just going to see those. It's really good, but then you might not be able to trigger, often her action side on your alter ego side in the beginning. So again, it's all about how you want to build it. Do you want to go right off the bat aggressive, or right off the bat I'm focusing on threat removal and I can still do these little ping damages? So what's cool about this character is it's all up to you, and she is incredibly versatile. And you can even in protection, you can build her in protection or in leadership, and then put those really good attack and thwart events to really compensate where you would be lacking in that specific weakness. All right, so first things first, let's talk about the conditioning room, which is arguably and pretty much debatably, not that debatable, the ugliest art in this game so far. Oh my god. So all right, besides the point, and we had a winner with Winter Soldier, which was kind of weird, but I was okay with it. But this one, I'm just like, something about that reverse clown face and I don't know. I don't get it. Well, whatever. Fine. Art is subjective. All right. Okay. So here we go. At least the wall that she's fighting is nice, I guess. All right, and all right. I'm not gonna critique this anymore because you got the disproportioned leg, like that's like 10. Like look at the leg size. I could go on this card for like 10 minutes. All right, never mind. Okay, so Conditioning Room is actually a very practical card for Gamora. It is a one cost support that is a location, and it has an alter ego action. All right, so that's really cool to get that in your opening hand. So all you need to do is exhaust the Conditioning Room. That is the condition that needs to be met, and then you return the bottommost attack or thwart event from your discard pile to your hand and heal a damage from Gamora. I think the heal is what I like the most about this, but also to be able to return the bottommost card. So this is very difficult for me because I normally play with my discard pile and I like mix it up and I look at what's in my discard pile. But with Gamora, don't do that because you can mess up the order. So now your discard pile, the way you put cards in is important. So when you're discarding cards from your hand or when you're doing your first mulligan, it's very important to kind of strategically think about what am I going to put at the bottom, because once I play my Conditioning Room, I can bring that back later on. So that is a good point of let's see what we're going to do and what we're going to put there. But you don't have to bring back a card for the Conditioning Room to work. It's just you're still going to heal the damage because the only requirement for this card to work is to exhaust it. Okay, so that's very important. So there's no card, you still heal one, even if you don't need to heal one. And if there's no card to bring back, you still get to do everything. So Conditioning Room, I have to stop laughing when I look at this card. I'm going to stop looking at this card. All right, it's very, very practical card, super card that you want, especially if you're going to flip back and forth. Definitely a card that you want on the table. Good priority number 1.5 or 2 for her hero kit, because it may give you a hand size with her action, a hand size of 8, which is amazing. All right, okay, so now let's look at a couple of cards. There's 2 in the pack, so there's 2 cards. These are her Keen Instincts, and I love this card because it is a resource generator, and I love myself some resource generators. All right, so there is 2 in the pack of these. These are one cost upgrades that are called Keen Instincts. It's a skill, which makes sense, she is a warrior. It is a resource card, so all you need to do is exhaust Keen Instincts, generate a wild resource for an attack or thwart event. Now, read the card carefully. This is not a hero resource, but a plain resource card. That means if you are in alter ego, you can also use this for alter ego events. Now, right now, the only alter ego events that I can think of that you can do are the what's it called? I have to remember. But I know there's the Black Widow's one, but that's a signature card that you can do in alter ego. And what other events can you do? And then I think it's She-Hulk that has alter ego thwart events. But again, so most of the times, obviously you want to be in hero form, but this can work in alter ego if the card permits it. All right, so you can use this in alter ego for attack or thwart events. Very important, and this is a priority 1. You should always put 1 in. Generating wild resources is amazing, especially for when you have a lot of these events now in attack that you need like triple resources or you need a specific resource type. This is priority 1. Put these on the table. They will make your future turns way, way better. So, and then she's got one more card that is super, super important. Well, not super important. It is it's very good. It is Gamora's Sword. Now, Gamora's Sword is a 3 cost upgrade. Okay, it is a unique and restricted item. So again, just remember that this is restricted. You can only have 2 restricted items in play, okay, per character. All right, so the response here is after you play an attack event, deal a damage to an enemy. So that's really, really fun because again, it's damage. It's not an attack, so it can bypass guards. It can remove toughs. It can go anywhere you want. You choose where the damage goes. So what makes this card super interesting is all the little 0 cost attacks that you could have. I'm thinking like get over here, like it's a 0 cost, but then instead of doing 1 damage to a minion, you do 1 damage to a minion, 1 damage to something else, trigger her finesse. So really, trigger her finesse. So you can really build this deck super cheap and really have a lot of impact. So the Gamora Sword, again, it's a card that it's more there for the late game, but if you have the opportunity to put it down early game, it is gonna work wonders. All right, so that is it for the sword. Now let's look at some of her events. All right, so now let's start with acrobatic moves. Now there is 2 copies of this card in her deck, which is very, very fun. This is a 0 cost attack event. So first of all, it can remove stun for free. Well, for 1 true cost, but it's basically deal 2 damage to an enemy, and when you have the finesse, it's 2 damage and a threat for 0. Man, the value of this card is tremendous. So because of what it can do. Now, what's fun about this card as well is it can also help you trigger other things. So, and we'll see that in the next few cards that we're gonna present with her. But the fact that she has a 0 cost event that is an attack, it's just bonkers. All right, so it's a 0 cost event, attack, hero action, deal 2 damage to an enemy. And then there's some really nice text, and there's some really nice art on this one, so it's not all bad on the art side. But yeah, so acrobatic moves, very good. Anything with Gamora's sword, it's 2 damage to an enemy, 1 damage wherever you want, 1 threat wherever you want. Man, what more can you want? I think that's why that's one of her best cards. Now let's go look at our big attacks. All right, so her big attack, and there's 2 of those in the deck as well. It is the decisive blows. All right, so the decisive blow here, it is a 2 cost event, an attack. Again, love the art on this one. Hero action, attack. Deal 4 damage to an enemy, 7 damage instead if you have played a thwart event this turn. Ooh, so these are like these are great cards that if you put a nice balance of thwart and attack events, you can trigger boosted effects for the same cost. So I won't lie, 2 costs to do 7 damage, remove a threat, and maybe if you have the Gamora sword, so 2 costs for 8 damage, that is pretty much the most potent card in the game. 2 for 8, I think that's the highest ratio. Oh wait, no. What's his face there? Iron Man, Sonic Punch, 2 for 8. Yeah, but you have to be aerial. So again, there's always conditions to these really powerful cards. But again, decisive blow, all you need to do is to do a thwart event. Super simple to do, especially if you've balanced your cards out. So very powerful card. And again, all you need to do is to do a little trigger. 2 for 4 is not that good. So unless you absolutely need that 2 damage, that 4 damage, I would save it for something else or use it as a resource unless you can trigger the boosted effect. All right, so that's decisive blow. Now let's look at her thwart events. She's got 2 of these. These are the set the pace 0 cost events for thwarting now. So again, really cool to combo with your set the pace and decisive blows. Man, so this is very fun. So the set the pace is a 0 cost event. Thwart, again, if you are confused, it will remove the confuse for free and still trigger her precision ability, which is very cool. So you still get to do a damage even by removing your confusion. All right, so hero action, thwart, remove 1 threat from a scheme. Very easy, very simple, but a 0/1 cost. Now, what's great about this card, again, is it will remove stuff, but it will also enable you to do your decisive blow. So you do this, and then you do decisive blow for 0, and then for 2 cards. So that's a hand size of 5 right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. And then you have a perfect hand is set the pace, decisive blow, poof. And then you just did a ton of damage and removed a bunch of threat. So, and that's without even attacking or thwarting. So super cool combos that you can do here with a lovely Gamora. And again, her second big thwart event, so she's got two big attacks, 2 big thwart events, and the first is called Forward Momentum. It is a 2 cost thwart event. Hero action, thwart, so remove 3 threat from a scheme, 5 threat if you have played an attack event this turn. So again, Now if we go with our acrobatic moves, we can do 2, remove 1 threat, so that's 2 damage, 1 threat, and then 3 damage, and then 6 threat. So man, so if you have this combination in hand, so very, very fun, very, very cool the way we can kind of play these cards off each other. For me, it makes perfect sense. So 4 momentum and 5 threat removal, this will take out pretty much any side scheme in solo play. I think the only one that might not is if but you're not playing Asgard, maybe against Ultron if you have a ton of drones. And it's the drone factory. That's probably the only one that this won't clear. But 5 threat, that's solid. That's actually good against especially the campaign in the Galaxy's Most Wanted, because most of the side schemes start with like 5 or 6 and they keep going up. So getting, just for a 2-cost event, getting rid of maybe 5 or 6 threat is money. All right, and I think one of my favorite cards for Gamora, and this is her defensive card, and there's only 2 copies of this. It is called the Cross Counter. Now, this is a triple trait card. So right now there's no official ruling, but everyone's kind of interpreting this a little bit differently. Is it 3 separate actions? Is it just 1 action that triggers everything? So this is a little bit of a debatable. So if I'm inaccurate, so please forgive me. It might change. Again, we're still waiting for an official word off from the developers off of this. All right, but so Cross Counter says it's a 1-cost event, hero interrupt, attack, defense, and thwart. So the debate here is it defense, attack, thwart? Is it 3 separate things, or is it all one thing? So this is where the debate is, because if it's 3 separate things, that means if you're stunned, you'll remove your stun. If you're confused, you'll remove your confused, and you'll still prevent the damage because you'll be doing all 3. But right now, the way it says is hero interrupt. When you would take any amount of damage, prevent 3 of that damage. Then deal 1 damage to an enemy, remove 1 threat from a scheme. So the fact that it triggers finesse and precision, it's basically prevent 3, deal 2 damage where you want, and remove 2 threat where you want. And you can divide those between anything, which is very, very powerful. But if you are stunned or confused, this will not, it will trigger, you can play it, it will just remove your confusion. You will still trigger your finesse and precision because it's after you've played the event. So this triggers will still see, but you will not be able to prevent the damage and everything. So I think that's a little weird, but again, that is my personal opinion. I think the way it should be worded would be 3 separate instances, which would make more sense to me. But the way, because it's a defense event, that's why. The reason for me, I think it's more complicated, it's because it's labeled as a hero interrupt for a defense event. And I think that is why I think it should be worded differently. But again, we're still waiting for the developers to say anything about that. So, but Cross Counter, amazing card. Amazing card. I wish she had a recursion mechanic like Ms. Marvel, but that would just make it just too good. It would just be too good. So, all right. And then finally, she has 1 ally, a treacherous ally called Nebula. So Nebula is a 2-cost ally with 2 thwart, 2 attack. She is a guardian with 2 health points, and she does have a response. After Nebula enters play, and this is so key, it's after she enters play, not from your hand, because if you remember, most of the new heroes and allies that we got, everything is played from your hand, but she does not have that. So as soon as she enters play, you search your deck for an attack or thwart event and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. Now that is super cool because you can kind of go with a leadership build, bring her back with make the calls and keep tutoring for the right combination of cards. You know, she goes down, she blocks, she comes in, deals 2 threat, deals 2 damage, gets you your attack event to combo your big cards, either forward momentum or decisive blow, or even get your cross counter because you know he's going to do a big attack. So really, really cool because you can search for what you need in your deck. That is a tutor for 2, and you can repeat this with the leadership aspect, make the call. And again, this we'll go into combos. We're just focusing on the main deck here. But what she does is amazeballs. All right, it's super good. So Nebula, extremely strong ally for the cost of 2. It's so cheap. I thought this should be a 3 cost for sure, because she actually nets you a card as well. So amazingly powerful ally, but she is a double-edged sword, especially if you see her Shadow of the Past. But we'll talk about that in a minute. All right. So all in all, Gamora's hero pack is just crazy. Her signature kit is exactly what you're expecting. It's very tactful. It's very precise. It's what you need when you need it, and try to play it in the proper way where you get to trigger all your events on every phase. And that is the key to success with Gamora. Now, the more you'll see of this, the better you'll play. So more, you might be a little weird at the beginning how you play this, but I'm telling you, once you start playing her, oh my God, it's super fun. For solo play, she is phenomenal. And I think that's why they didn't put anything to stun or confuse with her, because you don't really need it. But if you add that to the mix, bonkers. All right, so she's pretty much invincible. All right, so that is it for the hero kit. Now let's look at, she comes in with some aggression cards. She is technically aggression, but she's also bringing in a couple of other aspect cards, because remember, we are allowed to put 6 cards attack and thwart cards from different aspects. So there'll be 3 protection cards and 3 new justice cards. Well, it's 1 protection card and 1 justice card that will be introduced to this pack. So now let's just take a look at the aggression stuff. Yeah, before I go, I just want to give a shout out to Jonathan Rector, my man, the artist. If you haven't seen his work, this Gamora artwork, which I love, is very semblance of what he kind of likes to do. So big shout out to you, Jonathan. Man, you should start sending in some artwork for FFG to replace stuff like, where is it? I think I put it away. Somewhere scary, where the scary stuff are. How do you go from this to this? Ow! I love all the art except for that one. It's so crazy. All right, so let's look at our first. Okay, so she's coming in with some aggression cards. So let's continue on with the aggression card. So the first one is an event card. It is called Planet Attack. So it is a 0 cost event. Okay, interesting enough. It is a tactic card. So we're seeing more and more of these little tactic cards kind of show up. So that's kind of fun. So it is an action. Search the top 4 cards of your deck. The top 7 if you are in alter ego form for an attack event, and add that card to your hand. Shuffle your deck. Now, me personally, I'm not a big genre, I'll just put cards to search for cards. But the more I think about it, this can really help you, especially once if you cram your deck full of attack events, and then you want to need, okay, I need the one with piercing. Let's see if it's in the top 4. Oh, I need the one with that. I need a melee, or I need into the fray. So this really helps you search for the attack or the attack event that you absolutely need. Now, it is not my playstyle. I normally don't play cards like this, but I can see where the value in this, especially in an aggression build where you want to find the right kind of attack card that you need for the moment. So I think this is a very smart card for the game. I just need to kind of figure out where I want to play this and with what characters I want to play this. But very smart card. Like this card. All right, next one is a card called Clobber. So I like that there's like an enraged symbiote in there. That's pretty nice. So the event is Clobber, 2 cost event. Okay, it is an attack, a hero action. Attack, deal 3 damage to an enemy. And if this is the first card you have played this round, and this is important, this round, okay, return this card to your hand. So it's not the first event you play, it's the first card you play. So if you put an attack, like let's say I put my Keen Instincts down and then I play this, it's not coming back to my hand. But if I play the Clobber for 2, deal 3 damage, bring it back, so it effectively reduces the cost to a true cost of 2 instead of a true cost of 3, because you get to bring it back. So that's what I like, because that's a little bit what Ms. Marvel does. So she puts some cards down. So technically with Miss Marvel, I could play this 3 times. Now, is it a card that would run with Miss Marvel? Probably not, because there's so much better cards than that. But this is pretty cool for these, like even a Hulk build where you can, all right, I'm going to play this. It's got the physical resource. I'm paying 3 and bringing it back, and then I can play, let's say my the one with the fist that you can only pay with a fist there. I can't remember what, but then I can pay 2, so I can do 2 attack events with my little 4-hand size. So this is a smart card for like these characters with low hand sizes. It gives you some options to bring that card back and do something else with it. So Clobber, fantastic new addition to aggression cards. Very, very cool. Love this. All right, and then she has one other weapon. All right, so this is another upgrade. This is a 3-cost upgrade. It is Godslayer. This is a weapon that is restricted. So again, so if you have Gamora's sword and you have Godslayer, that is your limit. You cannot add any other restricted items to her board unless you discard one of them. So Hero Interrupt. So this is just an upgrade that stays on the board. Hero Interrupt. When your hero makes a basic attack against a unique enemy. So unique enemies. So if you take a look at anything like the Masters of Evil, like Scorpion, Electro, all these unique enemies, it says exhaust Godslayer, your hero gets +2 attack for that attack. It's an okay card. I think it's very expensive for what it does. It gives you that +2 once, but I think for the true cost of 4 and the cost of 3 to put it down, it is not my favorite card. If it did not exhaust, this would be so good, because then every time you attack a unique enemy with a basic attack, I don't think this should have been exhausting. But that's my personal opinion. I think if this was just an upgrade, you keep it there, your sword, you have it at all times. Every time you punch, you have your sword with you. I think it would make a lot more sense, but that's not me. That's not my vision. But I think this should have been like, no need to exhaust this thing. That is definitely not a need to exhaust card, especially with the cost that it has. But I can see if you're playing, let's say Quicksilver, why it would be too broken, because Quicksilver with double basic attacks, he attacks 5 times. Oh, okay, I'm going to attack the boss for 2. And if he's playing aggression, so 5, 10, 15, 20 without any boost cards. So I see why they wanted to nerf this card a little bit, because or else it would be too broken with certain characters. Quicksilver, you bad boy. But yes, it is an okay card. This is definitely not a priority card that you want to play. It's like, okay, well, I have a double resource and nothing else to play. You know what? I'll just put the Godslayer, and it's that extra 2 damage whenever I attack the boss with my basic attack. So again, it's a good card. It's not my favorite card, but it's okay. And the art is semi-questionable, so maybe that doesn't help it either. All right, but we do get a fantastic ally, and she is called Angela. So Angela is an Asgard Guardian ally with 0 thwart and still takes consequential damage. That's the best. And I know why they put that, because if Star-Lord plays her, she still can thwart for 1 if he has his leader of the Guardians. But I think it's still funny. I'm going to thwart for 0 and just take consequence damage for nothing. And 2 attack and a consequence damage. She is Asgard, a Guardian, and 3 hit points, and she has force response. So that means as soon as she comes into play. Okay, so after Angela enters play under your control, search the top 10 cards of the encounter deck for a minion and put it into play engaged with you. Shuffle the encounter deck. If a minion was not put into play, discard Angela. So obviously the top 10 cards is a lot. So normally any deck or encounter deck with even 5 or 6 minions, you should be able to find one for free. With Thor, this card is bonkers, because you play Angela for free. First of all, it gives you a blocker. You get to choose any of the minions that are there. So if you're playing and these are put into play, so they're not going to reveal. They don't get revealed. They just get put into play. And then you just put one into play with Thor. You draw 2 cards. Man, it's just crazy. So this is a fantastic card for Thor. I just want to do a little side note on that, because, oh my God, if you haven't seen that, She's Asgardian as well, so it's pretty awesome. And then exactly, and then she can tap that that minion for 2. So you know, you can get a Hydra Soldier, Hydra Regular, whatever, and then boom, doof, done. And then you get your and then you get to keep Angela as a nice little blocker here. So very, very cool ally. The fact that she costs 0 and she has a condition to it, I think it's fantastic. All right, so very, very, very much loving Angela. All right, so that's for the aggression cards. All right, now let's look at the another attack event, which is from the protection aspect, which is cool because protection doesn't really have too many. So this is 1 card. We have 3 copies of those in the deck. It is first hit and some really cool Venom art on that with his guns. So 1 cost event attack, and there's 2 things here: hero action attack, deal 2 damage to the villain. You know, it's a little 2 damage, you know, a little jab here. But what I like the most about it is if you are playing it defensively, if you're playing in protection, it is also a hero interrupt. So what's nice about it is if you get it, you can still play it during the villain's turn. So whenever a minion initiates an attack against you, deal 2 damage to that minion. So remember, initiates, that means, okay, the minion, so the villain initiates an attack against you, gets the boost card, attacks. The minion initiates the attack. If that minion only has 2 health, you can pay 1, kill it, and it never attacks you. So that's super, super cool. And it's not, the value is not super high, like in terms of cost versus, you know, damage that it's doing, but it's still a protection event that keeps you safe because that minion's not attacking against you. So it saves you some damage and it deals 2 damage, gets rid of a minion, and if you have other triggers and stuff like that, that can really make it interesting. So first hit, I'm liking this card. I kind of want to see where I want to put it. I'm definitely going to be putting it in a deck that needs a lot of lightning. Probably an Iron Man deck or a Thor deck, even Captain Marvel deck, where, you know, you're really dependent on the lightning. I do enjoy the card. I haven't really figured out where I want to put it and what type of decks I want to put it yet, but I do think this is a card that, you know, we'll watch for it. We'll watch for it. It's probably going to start popping up in some of my decks pretty soon. All right, then we have our other card, which is a Justice card. All right, it is a thwart event. So again, we had 3 attacks for protection, 3 thwarts for justice, which is pretty cool because now we get some new cards, and it is called Impede, a 2-cost event. Impede says thwart, hero action, thwart, again, remove 3 threat from the main scheme. And if this is the first card you have played this round, return this card to your hand. So again, just kind of like clobber. It is a cool card with the same kind of effect for that has the Miss Marvel effect. So if it's the first one you play, you get to bring it back and save it. Now, my little where I don't like it's a Justice card, but that only targets the main scheme. So for me, Justice should be a little bit. It is a Justice card. It should be more versatile in what it can do. But you know what? Beggars can't be choosers. Beggars? What do you mean beggars? We have tons of events in Justice that play, you know, can remove threat from anywhere. You're right. So for me, I don't think Impede is going to see a lot of play, just because it's a little bit limiting. But it's still a cool card with certain characters. I guess we can probably figure it out. I haven't spent enough time trying to see where I could figure it out and what kind of build. It's okay. It's not amazing. All right, that's my opinion on this. And yeah, you guys are free to have your own opinions and make videos about it too. Hey, all right. This is one of my favorite basic cards. This is super, super fun. This is Hit and Run. Now, this is a 3-cost event. Hit and Run is an attack and thwart event for 3. So again, it's going to trigger both your finesse and your precision when you play this card. It's attack thwart, deal 2 damage to an enemy, remove 2 threat from a scheme. So again, so with Gamora, it's 3 and 3 for 3. So this is super, super versatile. With Ms. Marvel, it's for 3. It's 4 damage, 4 threat that you can bring back. Again, it's pretty good once you embiggen and shrink it. So that's fun because you can embiggen that and shrink that at the same time. So really, really fun card. I've been really, really enjoying this card with Gamora just because it does both things. You know, I'll remove some threat from here, and it's versatile. See, from a scheme, not from the main scheme. So that's super important. And it's 2 damage to an enemy. So again, you can't target the enemy if he has guard. You can't target the boss if there's a guard in front of you. But it's still, 2 damage and 2 damage, and then your finesse and precision triggers can trigger stuff elsewhere. So very, very interesting card for me. I like it. I like it with a few different characters right now that I've been playing, especially when I play mostly basics and I put those powers within us. Man, this card it does a lot of work. It's, like I said, it's very good for solo. Multiplayer, not as much, but for solo play, this card is beautiful. All right, especially with Gamora. All right, so let's look at the last card we got, the last neutral card. Basics, we got Mr. Drax. All right, Mr. Drax, who is going to he's going to be in the next hero pack. So Drax is a unique ally with 3 costs, 1 thwart and 1 consequence damage, 3 attack, 1 consequence damage. He is a guardian with 4 health. So that's pretty interesting, 4 health. You can only play him if you have the guardian trait, so you cannot play him in alter ego. Just remember this, even if you are an outlaw in alter ego, you are a guardian in hero form only. And Drax cannot attack minions, so he doesn't care about the riffraff. He just goes for the boss. Now, where I like Drax is, yes, with an attack of 3, it's pretty good, and it's always designed to the boss. Where I don't like is, since he can only attack the boss, if there's a guard minion, well, then you're out of luck. You're SOL, because he cannot attack. He just can't do anything. So that's a little frustrating. But again, I can understand. So you got to make sure that you take care of all the guards in front of you before you start using Drax to attack. Now that said, the 3 attack, which is nice, 4 health, so that means he's going to do about 12 damage before he goes out, or he's going to do 9 damage and block for you, which is pretty good for 3. 9 damage for 3 is legit, or 12 damage for 3 is still legit. So very, very good. Obviously it's over time, but it's still a very, very cool combination of cards. Now for me, Drax is not my favorite, just because of his limitations. But aside from that, he's okay. He's an okay ally. He's just okay. I wish he had a little something special. If he had 4 attack, I'd be like, yeah, that's a little bit better. But again, because if the villain has retaliate, well, Drax is just taking 2 hits. You're like, yeah, Drax versus Zola, not a good matchup. Even Drax versus the second Ronin, Ronin stage 2 or stage 3, he's got retaliate. I'm like, yeah, he's gonna attack Ronin twice. Not much vengeance with 6 damage, but whatever. So that is my issue with Drax. I was like, he's okay, but he's not like the be on and all of the Guardians. So that is it for that. Now let's take a look. We have 3 special cards that are also introduced in the packs. We have an extra protection card, which is called True Grit. Now this is a pretty interesting card. It is a thwart event that is not for protection. So again, we're seeing a lot of cool cards that are off aspect, which is what I like to see. So 1 cost event, True Grit is a 1 cost thwart with Luke Cage on it. Nice, maybe Luke Cage coming in again. Who knows? And then, all right, so thwart response. After your hero defends against an enemy attack, remove threat from a scheme equal to your hero's thwart. So it's pretty cool, especially if you're playing multiplayer. So if you're playing standard, most of the time this is going to be a 1 for 2, unless you're playing Rocket Raccoon, who can go up to 3, Star-Lord, who can go up to 3, and what's her face there? Wasp, that can go up to 3. So 1 for 3 is not bad, but 1 for 2 or 1 for 1 is not the best. It is still pretty cool, but if you're putting in, if you put the thing where everyone gets or heroic intuition, if somebody's putting that on your character that has 3, now 1 for 3 starts getting a little bit more interesting. And what's nice about it is after your hero defends against an attack. So again, your hero has to defend, all right? Or he has to use an event like sidestep to prevent, or preemptive strike to prevent the damage. So this is a cool mechanic if your hero wants to play during the villain's turn. So I really, really enjoy this. I've had a couple of Gamora games where I actually used a lot of the passive aggressive cards where you just dealing damage. You're doing your turn when the villain's turn happens, which makes your turn a little bit boring, but everything you're doing during the villain's turn. So that for me is super fun, and it's a cool way to play off the norm. So for me, it's a cool card. Again, is it the best card? It is an okay card because it's limiting to your hero's actual thwarting ability. So that's for me is like it's okay. In the capping of the Rise of Red Skull, if you get the extra thwart event, then it starts being a little bit more interesting. It can go up to a 1 for 5. That is pretty cool after you defend against an attack. And the thing is, what I like about this is it's versatile. It's not from the main. It can be from wherever you want. So that's where it gets a little bit of more pluses for me. All right, so that is it for True Grit. And then we have Pivotal Moment. All right, this is a cool card. Love the artwork on this one. Rocket Raccoon, they're very, very funny. 2-cost event, and it's an attack event. It is hero action, attack. Deal 2 damage to the villain. It's not that amazing, 2 for 2. But 5 damage instead if there is no threat on the main scheme. Now this is cool. So if you're doing your job as a Justice player and you keep that threat under control on the main scheme, it is super, super fun to do 2 for 5 damage. It's pretty good. This is better than an uppercut. But again, it comes at a price. Now, early game, great. Multiplayer games, this card, it's not going to be very, very useful in a multiplayer game, especially with the scenarios we've seen with Galaxy's Most Wanted, that all the side schemes start like at 4 or 6 or 8, depending on the number of players. So it's great for solo. Don't get me wrong, this is a great solo card. Multiplayer, not as much. As soon as you go off 2 players, 3 players, this is not a card that is going to see play. This is definitely a solo play card. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe you got ways to keep that main scheme down to 0 in a 4-player game. Unless you're playing Rhino, it's going to be a little bit harder to keep that main scheme down to 0. So for me, it's a good card. It's not an amazing card. It's a great card for solo. Okay card for multiplayer. To a maybe even, multiplayer, it's not going to work. All right, so that is my opinion on that one. And finally, Comms Implant. Now, this is a leadership attachment, comms plant, 1-cost upgrade, item tech, obviously, attached to a Guardian ally, max 1 per ally. Attached ally gets +1 thwart and +1 hit point. So right now with the Guardian's ally we have, if we're just looking at the neutral allies, it's not amazing. Even if at Nebula would get +1 hit and 3 thwart, okay. If we're looking at Drax, thwarts for 2, I'd rather an attack for 3. If Rocket could thwart for 3. Rocket's the only one that kind of makes sense to put that on. But then you're like, well, then I'm losing his overkill stuff. So this would make Rocket a little bit more versatile. Groot, thwarts for 2, attacks for 2. You don't really want him to attack, but if the villain's stunned, well, then you can use that 2 thwart. That kind of makes sense. And give him a 7th health point. That makes sense. But so far, even if you combine it with the other the Guardians that we saw, like Starhawk and do we have another Guardian? Yeah. So Angela, and I'm trying to think of even Cosmo. Cosmo could be okay if you're playing Doctor Strange with him, because you always know what the invocation deck is. So like I said, it's not my favorite one. It just I wish it wasn't limited to a Guardian, but that's just me. But it's still an okay card, for that. If this is very good with Star-Lord and Iron Man, you equip this for free, and then Iron Man's he's thwarting for 3, 4, or 5. It could just be broken. But again, that's Star-Lord specific. Play this on something like Ronin or Iron Man to make it interesting. So again, there's a lot of moving parts for this card to actually be super thematic for me. It's okay. It's an okay attachment. Like I said, we don't know all of the other Guardians that are going to be shown. I think we saw Gamora and we saw Star-Lord. So I think maybe after seeing the other Guardians allies that are be coming out, maybe one of them is going to make more sense. But for me, the comms implant is just okay. It seems like a lot of fuss for that, just that +1 thwart and +1. But again, I could be wrong. Maybe something's going to come out that we haven't seen yet, and it's going to be amazing. So, but for me, initial impressions, it's just okay. All right, now let's look at the bad cards. All right, her obligation, unfulfilled destiny. It's her obligation, so you have to give this to the Gamora Flare. So you have to flip to oh no, you don't have to. You may flip to alter ego form, which I always think is a free flip is always interesting. But what does it cost you if you don't want to exhaust? So you can always exhaust to remove this from the game. Easy enough. But you can choose and discard 2 event cards from your hand to discard this obligation. Now, for me, if you have a kind of a lousy hand, this is not that bad. So you get rid of 2 events, and then you go into your conditioning room. Once you're set up, you go conditioning room, you heal, you recover. You can actually use this to your advantage. So it's not the worst card, because if you're a little lucky, you can reveal the top card, get that event back, and then reveal the other card that's down at that's down from the discard pile. Bring it back, and then you get that free flip. You can recover. You can do some stuff. So for me, Unfulfilled Destiny is not a super bad obligation. It's not too bad, especially if you're set up a little bit and you get it late game. Interesting enough, keep that in play, because you get it again. Free flips, man. Obligations, you don't really want to get rid of them unless they're super broken, and this one is really not that bad. All right, now let's look at our Shadows of the Past. All right, which, if you saw my game with Gamora versus Nebula, it had to come out turn 1. Oh man. So yeah, so if you get this, so Nebula, unless you're playing Nebula versus Nebula, your nemesis minion is Nebula, but you're like, Steve, what do I do? What do I do if I have my Nebula in play? So this very simple. Nebula is a unique minion, 1 scheme, 2 attack, 5 hit points, an elite scoundrel, retaliate 2. So she's got some fight in her. Now she has a force interrupt. When this minion would enter play, discard the Nebula ally from play. So before it comes into play, you have to, if your Nebula ally is in play, you have to discard it. All right, so which is good, because most of the time you won't keep Nebula around. You're going to use her and block with her and then just pitch her. So this should never really happen too often. But again, so she is a triple icons, pretty bad. And that 5 health, it makes it kind of annoying. So you kind of want to be careful of how you attack her. So if you do that 1 thwart event and you can ping 1 damage, and then you do your decisive blow and then do 7 damage, so you're kind of overkilling. So it's a little sad, but you gotta take her out pretty fast. But she is not too bad, as all things considered. 1, 2, and she doesn't do anything bad. But what is bad is her side scheme, sibling rivalry. Now this is pretty annoying. Sibling rivalry, it is very unique as far as side schemes go. All right, so it says sibling rivalry, again, a 3 boost icon. So this is what's dangerous. Okay, so it says players other than Gamora cannot remove threat from sibling rivalry. So if you have interrogation room, if you have the other player's allies cannot do that. Nobody except for the Gamora character can remove scheme from that. So that is super important. You cannot do anything. You can't beat cop it away. You cannot do anything away except for my Gamora. All right, and it says force response. After the villain phase begins, deal 1 face down encounter card to Gamora. So basically, if you don't take care of this, you're going to be heroic every turn until you get rid of this. So this is 4 threat. Good thing it's not that high. I think they could have been a little bit meaner, especially that she has the forward momentum that can remove 5, and she has all these little thwart events. So basically, you can do 1 cheap attack event and then get rid of it, and then so if you set the pace, you remove 1, and then you do an acrobatic move, remove 1, and then boop, port for 2, it's already gone. So I think it should have been a little bit higher, just like at 5. 5 I think would have been the magic number for this. But I'm at 4, it just makes it a little bit easier to digest. All right. And then finally, a couple of cards. All right, so there's one copy of this. This is In a Bind, attached to Gamora. So treat Gamora's printed text box as if it were blank except for traits. So trait is only Guardian. So what it does, this card, if you get In a Bind, okay, and you attach this to Gamora, whoever gets this, if you're playing in multiplayer, it attaches to Gamora. Okay, even if you're an alter ego, she is still Gamora. Okay, and it cancels your finesse and precisions. That's what it is. It makes that not existent. Okay. And you have a hero action, choose and discard an attack event from your hand and deal 1 damage to Gamora to get rid of this card. So again, it's not super painful. Okay, I lose an attack event, whatever, I take a damage, whatever, and get rid of this card. I don't even have to exhaust or anything. That's it. So it's not super painful. The artwork's pretty cool where you see her face off against everyone. Pretty nice. But the last card. Now this, and Brian the Castro played with me, and he was playing Gamora, and he got Shadows of the Past. And this card kept coming up, is Waylay. And this is the bane of his existence now. Waylay says, when revealed, stun and confuse Gamora. Not stun and confuse you. You are stunned and confused. No, stun and confuse Gamora. So I was getting this, I got this a couple times, and it was like, really? Again? What? You keep wrecking my turns. And it was pretty funny. So, but yeah. Hey, you got your Shadows of the Past, not me. And it's like, yeah, it's your fault. So stun and confuse Gamora. And if Gamora is already stunned or confused, this card gains Surge. All right. It's already stunned or confused. So if she's already got one of them, this card is going to Surge. So very, very brutal, very annoying card. I think this is one of the worst cards for her set. Definitely annoying and painful. So guys, all in all, Gamora is a fantastic character, again, that you can play in basically any aspects. Add her the what's it called, the concussive blows and the tackles, and then you can stun whenever you want, you can confuse whenever you want. So basically she's just like always fighting fit, and she is like not worrying about anything. Other ways to play her, you can play her with I really enjoy her with protection and with those kind of stun locks, which is a super control-y game, but that's really good for solo play. When in multiplayer, it is not as good, but it's still pretty fun though that you can play, even if you're playing protection with her. What's nice is you can still, trigger some of those events that are nice. You can use the, counter punches. Now those counter punches are pretty cool. So counter punches now deal, 2 damage and remove a threat for nothing, and just for exhausting and defending with your character. So that's pretty fun. So again, Gamora, super well-rounded character for solo play. Again, multiplayer, you probably want to focus a little bit more on what your character is going to do in the team. So if it's going to be more thwarting or more attacking, just kind of choose an avenue. Don't try to go too all around. But again, it's always up to you guys how you want to build your character. But yeah, so from what I've seen from the experience I had playing with multiplayer and playing in solo, very, very different, which is very cool. All right, guys, so this is my breakdown of Gamora. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please share, like, subscribe, and guys, we'll see you next time for another Beat the Game. Keep on playing Marvel Champions. Oh, that was a terrible finish. All right, let's try this again. All right, guys, keep on playing Marvel Champions and beat the game. Ciao, ciao.